The past holds many secrets, and we're here to uncover them. Join us on this epic historical journey. Hit like, subscribe, and be part of the discovery. Hidden on Egypt's northern coast lies the ancient city of Taposiris Magna. Nowadays, there's not much left of its former glory, but what's buried underneath might reveal one of history's biggest secrets, the secret of Cleopatra, Egypt's most famous queen.
A recently discovered tunnel, which some are calling an engineering marvel of its time, could be the key. Archaeologists found a 43-foot-long underground structure, partially submerged in water. Its design and construction are similar to the famous Eupalinian tunnel in Greece, an ancient feat where builders dug from two ends of a mountain and met perfectly in the middle, using impressive math and engineering skills for that era.
Since 2004, archaeologists have been working at the Taposiris Magna site, believing this tunnel might lead to Cleopatra's long-lost tomb. So far, the evidence seems to support that theory.
For starters, the city and its temple were built by one of Cleopatra's ancestors, Ptolemy II. The architecture also suggests the site was dedicated to Osiris and Isis, the ancient Egyptian deities. Throughout her reign, Cleopatra tried to link herself to Isis, so it wouldn't be surprising if she chose this place as her final resting spot. While her tomb hasn't been found yet, research is ongoing with the help of modern technology. Archaeologists are using a special tool called ground-penetrating radar, which lets them see what's underground without digging. Since the tunnel is so old, the work has to be very precise. This method has been used here since 2011 to study the area safely before any excavation begins.
Finding Cleopatra's tomb could finally help us piece together her story, especially the mysterious events of her final days. To this day, no one knows for sure how she died.
Some believe she let a venomous Egyptian cobra bite her. Others think she was familiar with poisons and even hid some in her hairbrush, just in case she ever needed them. But that doesn't necessarily mean she used them on herself.
There are also many fascinating facts about Cleopatra that aren't as well known.
For example, she had a personal hairdresser. Most images of her show her with bold black eyeliner, a look created by a woman named Iris, who was both her shoemaker and close confidant.
Iris would draw a long line from Cleopatra's eyes to her temples, a makeup technique still used today to make eyes stand out. Iris was an important figure in Cleopatra's life and is even thought to have been with her when she died.
Despite her iconic image, Cleopatra might not have been as beautiful as legend suggests, or at least not in the way modern media portrays her. Movies and art often show her as stunningly gorgeous with perfect features.
But ancient coins with her likeness show a much more ordinary face. It's possible her image was intentionally altered on coins to make her look more powerful to her people. Reliable sources about her appearance are scarce, and most ancient texts focus on her intelligence, charisma, and captivating voice rather than her looks. Interestingly, Cleopatra wasn't supposed to become queen. She had an older sister, Berenice, who was originally meant to take the throne, but Berenice died before she could rule. This left Cleopatra next in line. Determined to rise to the challenge, she focused on her education, traveled across Egypt to understand her people's needs, and took on leadership responsibilities before she even turned 18. Her intelligence and dedication quickly won her the love and respect of her people. Cleopatra was also known for her love of literature. She admired Homer, the famous Greek poet and philosopher, and enjoyed both reading and writing. Some even say she wrote a book on medicine and cosmetics, though no copy of it has ever been found. And that's just a part of what made her so remarkable.
Would you like me to also reformat this into a YouTube script style, like for a documentary video, with speaker cues and storytelling tone?
Yes, please.
Back in Cleopatra's time, a ruler was expected to be a true leader and speak several languages. Cleopatra clearly understood this. That's why it's often said she was fluent in multiple languages to varying degrees. Some archaeologists suggest she spoke Greek, Egyptian, Ethiopian, and several Arabic dialects.
She might have even spoken Latin, though there's no solid proof of that. Sure, She might not have looked like an angel, but Cleopatra cared a lot about her appearance, even when it came to her diet. She was known for enjoying simple meals, often including different kinds of fish, which makes sense since she lived near the Mediterranean Sea. For a treat, she loved stuffed pigeon and would even serve it to her guests. Other staples in her diet were vegetables and fava bean soup. Fruits, nuts and honey were also favorites of hers. Recently, a team of experts tried to recreate her famous perfume. Think of it as the ancient version of Chanel No. 5. Cleopatra was obsessed with luxurious scents and believed they could influence how people reacted to her. The perfume was based on myrrh, a resin collected from local trees. Other ingredients found in the ancient recipe included cardamom, olive oil, and cinnamon. The final product wasn't as smooth as modern perfumes. It was thicker, but the scent lasted much longer. At the height of her power, Cleopatra was possibly the richest person in the world. Her rule extended from modern-day Libya across Egypt and all the way to Syria. This was the largest territory ever governed by a woman. In today's money, her wealth is estimated to be around $95 billion. Some say Cleopatra even played a role in shaping the calendar we use today. She suggested the idea of leap years and extra days to Julius Caesar, the Roman emperor with whom she was famously close. Following her advice, Caesar officially added these changes to the Roman calendar. The ancient Egyptians had already figured out that a year was slightly longer than 365 days. They learned this by studying Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, and realized the year was actually 365¼ days long. When people think of Cleopatra in pop culture, they often picture Elizabeth Taylor's iconic portrayal of her in the 1963 movie Cleopatra. At the time, it was the most expensive movie ever made. Originally, it was supposed to cost around $2 million, but production issues ballooned the budget to a staggering $44 million. Most of the extra costs came from script rewrites and production delays. To bring the film to life, producers built 79 custom sets and designed over 26,000 costumes. Cleopatra's costumes alone, worn by Taylor, cost around $200,000. Luckily, the movie was a box office hit and received critical acclaim, so it paid off in the end. Many people also associate Cleopatra with another famous Egyptian ruler, King Tutankhamun, or King Tut. Surprisingly, aside from both being pharaohs, they didn't have much in common. King Tut lived about 1,300 years before Cleopatra, and they weren't even from the same background. Cleopatra had Macedonian Greek roots, while King Tut was fully Egyptian. Speaking of ancient history, have you heard of Göbekli Tepe? It's an archaeological site in Turkey that forced historians to literally rewrite history books. Over 11,000 years ago, a group of prehistoric humans built this mysterious masterpiece, even older than Stonehenge. Before its discovery, archaeologists believed people back then had no knowledge of metalworking or advanced pottery. They were certain that settled life only began with the need for farming. But Göbekli Tepe turned that idea upside down. It revealed that building temples might have been what led humans to settle down, not agriculture. This game-changing discovery was largely thanks to Professor Klaus Schmidt, whose work proved that hunter-gatherer communities laid the foundation for settled life. Interestingly, in the 1960s, other archaeologists had visited the area but completely missed its importance. When they surveyed the site, they found a hill scattered with limestone slabs and assumed it was just an old medieval cemetery. Little did they know what was really there. In 1994, Schmidt started his own survey of prehistoric sites in the region, and surprise, he immediately realized he had found something extraordinary. Unlike the flat, barren plateaus nearby, Göbekli Tepe had a gently rounded peak rising 50 feet above the surrounding landscape. Funny enough, the name Göbekli Tepe literally means Potbelly Hill in Turkish. The name of the place is Potbelly Hill. Professor Schmidt was convinced that only humans could have built something like this. The broken limestone pieces that archaeologists had once mistaken for old gravestones turned out to be much more exciting. It was like discovering hidden treasure. Suddenly, those stone fragments had a completely new meaning, and Schmidt and his team were about to dive into the secrets buried beneath the surface. To their surprise, they didn't find any signs of a settlement. No cooking pits, no houses, and none of those famous clay figurines usually found at sites from the same period. Still, they did find that these ancient people used simple tools like stone hammers. So Schmidt and his team put their heads together and estimated the age of the stone structures at Göbekli Tepe. Some carbon dating at the site supported their guess. Slowly but surely, the ancient atmosphere of the place started to make sense. It was like a puzzle coming together, piece by piece. You might think people back then didn't have the tools to create something as incredible as Göbekli Tepe, but that's not true. Turns out, these prehistoric people used flint tools instead of fancy metal chisels. They were skilled at carving the softer limestone and making those massive stone pillars on the spot. After that, they would haul the pillars a short distance to the top of the hill and stand them upright. Once they finished a ring of stones, they'd cover it with layers of earth. Over time, they added new rings, and voila, you've got yourself an impressive mound to amaze future generations. In their first year of digging, the team examined 15,000 animal bones from wild creatures. These people didn't have domesticated animals or farm their own food. They hunted wild animals for their meals. But things were about to change. The area had everything they needed to start farming. Scientists say there were wild sheep and grains that could be domesticated. And guess what? Just 20 meters away, geneticists found evidence of the world's earliest domesticated wheat in a prehistoric village. These amazing discoveries completely changed how we understand civilization. Experts used to think that people had to learn how to farm and settle down before they could build temples and develop complex societies. But Schmidt's research flipped that idea on its head. He argued that the huge effort put into building these incredible structures actually paved the way for advanced societies. In other words, social and cultural changes happened before farming. Schmidt also had a fascinating theory about Göbekli Tepe. He believed it might have been a special burial site where people laid their loved ones to rest. But here's the difference. This burial site was decorated with elaborate statues and symbols representing gods from the spiritual world. The idea that Göbekli Tepe could have been a sacred place adds another layer of depth to the whole story. While we may never know the site's true purpose, Schmidt's insights encourage us to think about how deeply hunter-gatherer societies respected their ancestors and the afterlife. Now let's talk about the real stars of the show. Those amazing T-shaped pillars that dominate Göbekli Tepe. These mysterious structures stand between 10 and 20 feet tall and probably represent stylized human figures. But one carving really stands out. A 3D depiction of a lion. This sculpture fires up the imagination because it hints that lions once roamed Anatolia during the Neolithic period. The standing stones are arranged in circles set inside rectangular pits. Each circle follows a similar layout, two large T-shaped pillars in the center surrounded by slightly smaller pillars facing inward. Pretty impressive, right? These towering pillars reach up to 16 feet high and weigh between 7 and 10 tons. Some pillars are plain, while others are like intricate works of art. Foxes, scorpions, and vultures seem to come to life, crawling and twisting across the stone surfaces. But it's not just animals. Some pillars feature abstract shapes representing humans and even small carvings of clothing, some with belts. Among all these, one pillar is like the rock star of the site. This ancient stone is believed to depict a comet striking the Earth, an event that triggered a mini ice age lasting about 1,000 years. Previous studies of ice cores from Greenland had suggested the comet theory, but now Göbekli Tepe's carvings seem to back it up. The carvings on the pillars are like a prehistoric comic strip. One even shows a headless human figure. Researchers ran these images through computer analysis and found connections to constellations, suggesting the site might have also served as an ancient observatory. It's as if our ancestors were trying to document a major cosmic event for future generations, a truly catastrophic event, each in its own way. Music archaeologists have been excavating and researching Göbekli Tepe since the mid-1990s, peeling back layers of history and giving us a deeper understanding of how its different elements are connected. And guess what? They don't plan on stopping for another 150 years. Who knows what else they'll uncover? You see, Göbekli Tepe was originally thought to be just a purely ceremonial site with no signs of everyday life activities. People assumed that because there wasn't a reliable water source, it couldn't have supported any semi-permanent settlements. But now, scientists think it's time for a serious rethink. They believe we should look at Göbekli Tepe with fresh eyes and question our old assumptions using new evidence and different perspectives. It's possible that there were groups of people living in the area who didn't stay in one place all the time. Maybe they moved around a bit but still had their own culture that existed semi-permanently in the region. And Göbekli Tepe isn't home to just one temple. It's actually an impressive collection of more than 20 ancient structures. As archaeologists dig deeper, they keep finding its unique design. Every structure has two massive central pillars at its core, surrounded by smaller pillars and dividing walls. But here's the crazy part. There are over 200 obelisks in the area, tall, narrow stone monuments that taper to a point. Speaking of archaeological finds, back in November 1922, a boy wandering through Egypt's desert mountains stumbled upon ancient stone steps carved into the rock. That discovery turned out to be one of the greatest archaeological finds ever. The untouched tomb of Tutankhamun. Archaeologists found about 5,000 artifacts there, including jewelry, fabrics, painted decorations, and funerary masks. You've probably seen one of them. They've become some of the most iconic symbols of ancient Egypt.
Now, over 100 years later, humanity might be on the verge of another huge discovery. The long-lost tomb of Cleopatra. Cleopatra was the last active ruler of Egypt's Ptolemaic kingdom, reigning from 51 to 30 BC. There are plenty of ancient records about her life, rule, and fascinating personality. But so far, no one has managed to uncover the secrets of her burial place.
That's why archaeologist Dr. Kathleen Martinez has spent decades studying ancient records and temples around Alexandria. She's convinced Cleopatra's tomb must be located beneath the ancient city of Taposiris Magna, founded in 280 BC. This was once a bustling city on Egypt's northern coast where tens of thousands of people worked in trade and industry.
Turns out, Dr. Martinez's guess might have been spot on. She and her team discovered a secret underground tunnel near Alexandria, stretching about 0.8 miles long. The tunnel was carved into rock beneath the temple of Taposiris Magna. During further excavations, they found many clues suggesting Cleopatra's tomb could be deep within that tunnel. It's even possible she was buried there with the Roman general Mark Antony.
According to ancient records, Cleopatra and Antony were deeply in love and stood together against the Roman Senate, which eventually declared Antony a traitor. But natural disasters have plagued Taposiris Magna for thousands of years, making excavation tough. Earthquakes and floods destroyed much of the city and likely submerged its underground tunnels. Still, archaeologists hope the ancient tomb remains intact, possibly hiding treasures and records about Egypt's royal life during its final dynasty.
The site is at risk of getting flooded and buried in mud, which will take a lot of time and money to handle. But archaeologists believe it's worth it. Of course, it's too soon to say for sure that Cleopatra is buried there, but the team has found plenty of promising artifacts, like pottery, dozens of coins with Cleopatra's and Alexander the Great's images, and even a bust believed to represent the Egyptian queen herself.
In 33 BC, the conflict reached its peak when Antony's fleet clashed with Octavian's forces in a decisive naval battle.
Octavian won, forcing Antony and me to flee to Egypt. According to some records, we took refuge near Alexandria.
After being pursued by the Romans, they hid in one of Cleopatra's palaces where they eventually died. There are many legends about Cleopatra's death.
One says I was an expert in poisons and provoked a venomous snake, probably an asp or Egyptian cobra, to bite me.
Another version claims she pricked herself with a poison needle. There's even a theory that she kept a small vial of poison hidden in her hairbrush, and when cornered, she dipped a needle in the poison and pricked herself.
No one knows for sure how it happened. Scientists are still trying to uncover the truth.
Maybe when Cleopatra's tomb is finally found, we'll get more answers about her tragic fate. Cleopatra is considered the last true ruler of ancient Egypt. After her death, Octavian looted her palaces and temples and returned to Rome, where he became its first emperor. He ruled successfully and expanded Rome's borders, reigning until he was 75 years old. History could have been very different if Cleopatra and Mark Antony hadn't lost that naval battle. By the way, here's a mind-blowing fact. The time between Cleopatra's reign and Neil Armstrong's moon landing is longer than the time between Cleopatra's reign and the building of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Armstrong set foot on the moon in 1969, which is 2,038 years after Cleopatra's birth. The Great Pyramid was built in 2560 BC. Think about how long Egypt's history really is. Cleopatra is actually closer to us in time than to the pyramids. Unlike many other ancient Egyptian tombs, Tutankhamun's tomb stayed hidden and untouched by grave robbers for 3,000 years. One reason is that it was smaller than most royal tombs and hidden in a less obvious spot. Subscribe to explore more forgotten history with us. Like, share and support our journey to uncover the truth beneath the ruins. See you next time.